Let's turn to the senior political editor at the Huffington Post, MSNBC political analyst Howard Fineman. Howard, good evening.
Hi, Keith.
Any unicorns in the studio with you?
I don't see any.
What are the 4 test votes for in the Senate? What and when, and do they involve unicorns?
Not unicorns, but senators.
Yeah.
And I just came from the Hill where right at this minute the Senate Democrats are meeting in caucus behind closed doors for the second time today. This is a rare evening session, and what they're listening to is Harry Reid explain to them, Harry Reid, the Democratic leader, what's probably going to happen tomorrow, which is a series of fake filibuster votes, of test votes. And it's sort of like Harry Reid publicly revealing what's in his hand and showing the Democratic caucus that they probably don't have the numbers to do anything other than accept that 2 or 3 year extension of tax cuts for the rich. I think that's sort of what's going on here. There will be 4 votes tomorrow, at least as I understand it as of this minute. First, they'll vote in the Senate in this test vote, a filibuster vote, which requires 60, on the House-passed bill, the one that Congressman Weiner voted for and so forth. That would cap the continuation of tax increases to families making $250,000 or less. That's probably going to lose, as we've talked about here. The Democrats have 58, counting the 2 independents, but they need 60 to overcome the theoretical filibuster, and they probably won't get that 60. So that means that'll be dead. Then they'll vote on Senator Schumer's idea, which is to cap the continuation of the tax cuts at $1 million, at families making $1 million. And according to the senators I've been talking to, that's going to probably fail too. That won't get the 60 votes. Then they're going to vote on Senator McConnell's, Republican leader's proposal to allow all the tax cuts to continue until the unicorns come home. And that will fail because it won't be able to get the 60 votes either. And then they'll come to the 4th and final one, which they're drafting at this moment, which Secretary Geithner and OMB Director Liu and the others are working on now. And that will probably call for a 2, maybe even 3-year extension of tax cuts for everyone. And that's the one that we'll see if there'll be 60 votes for. Presumably the Democrats who wouldn't want to vote for the others will vote for that. And presumably a couple Republicans will too, in which case you'll show that that'll be the thing that'll pass eventually.
Whatever passes eventually, and it is terrifying to think that even if the threshold were $100 million, there'd be Republicans who voted against it, which is, I'm not exaggerating.
And maybe even some Democrats.
Yeah. Will it, as I asked Anthony Weiner, would it at least include the extension of the jobless benefits?
Well, not necessarily. No, it depends on how strong or weak the Democrats' hand is here, and it's pretty weak. And in a way, this is going to be a demonstration of their weakness tomorrow, I think. So, no, not necessarily. It could happen, but these test votes are sort of like seeing how many chips you have, to play with, and it's not clear that it's going to show anything other than the Democrats' weakness.
Yeah, it's not the chips that I'm concerned about. It's the fullness of the deck.
Yes.
The vote today in the House, why didn't it happen in October? Were Democrats too scared, or were they saving it for the lame duck, anticipating losing the House? In other words, did they prioritize having a political cudgel right now ahead of having an actual potentially meaningful vote in October?
Well, Congressman Weiner didn't want to say this, but I bet you he thinks it. They were afraid to do it. They were just afraid in that environment of Republicans coming after them and saying, these are the tax-raising Democrats. And the Democrats never framed it properly. They've never even considered, for example, meeting the Republican argument about how there are all these small businesses that, will be crushed by raising taxes on the rich. Craft an exemption for legitimate small businesses there. I mean, that's what the IRS exists to do. I haven't even heard the Democrats talk about that idea. It's just a very simple thing, but they seem to be, are afraid of their own shadow when it comes to tax policy, and that's what we see the results of right now.
Howard Fineman, senior political editor and a unicorn specialist to the Huffington Post. Always a pleasure, Howard. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Keith.